To our community tour led by Arlo Maverick. My name is Michael Magnuson. I'm the new public programs and outreach coordinator at the Art Gallery of Alberta. To start this program, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. We are currently in the AGA building, which is in Treaty 6 territory in Edmonton, the traditional land of our diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Inuit, and Ojibwe Saulteaux Anishinaabe. We acknowledge and extend gratitude to the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations and who continue to call this place home today. This is the 4th edition of the relaunch of our community tour program, which invites a new speaker each month to lead a tour of a current exhibition, giving our audiences a unique perspective on the work on display. We are in the exhibition Black Every Day, curated by Darren W. Jordan. This exhibition marks the 15th anniversary of Five Artists, One Love, an organization dedicated to promoting the vibrancy of Edmonton's African Canadian communities. Also, I would like to say a big thank you to Natalie Meyer, who is currently in the gallery and did a lot of work on this exhibition as well. This AGA Live community tour is made possible from the Heart and Soul Fund by EPCOR. I'd also like to thank the Canada Council for the Arts. This is a hybrid program with people attending in person and online. We will have a Q&A. If you're viewing this tour virtually, please use the Q&A function and we will try to answer those questions at the end. Now I will introduce Arlo. Arlo Maverick is an Edmonton-based hip-hop MC whose sound explores jazz, electro, and soul, yet identifies itself as hip-hop through fusing nuances of hip-hop's golden era and jazz theory. Lyrically, Arlo Maverick's music is poetic narration of everyday life experiences. His recent song, Black Every Day, inspired the title for this recent exhibition. So without further ado, take it away, Arlo.
Thank you. Hello world, I am Arlo Maverick, and today I'm going to take you guys through the Black Everyday exhibit here at the Art Gallery of Alberta. As Michael had mentioned, Five Artists, One Love, 15th anniversary. This is a exhibit of culture, life experiences, all of the above, from the Black perspective, from the African Canadian perspective, the perspective that you often don't see. But today, you're going to get an opportunity to see my thoughts on some of these paintings that, some of these installations, I guess you could say, that are featured there. So let's go for a ride. And I want to thank the audience that's here right now, as well as the people who are at home watching. So the first artist that we're going to look at is Jay Dante. He is an artist, visual artist here in the city, as you can see. A lot of reality-based stuff from what I see, but also mixed in with stuff that is more exaggerated and extreme. He's got the Nike shoe in the first one here, but then he's got like this crazy thing coming out of the head of the person, which I don't know what it means, but it's artistic, you know? Then we come over to this here, a sculpture of a woman's body, which is interesting because of the fact that you see the natural shapes of it, but at the same time, though, it resembles a vase or a vase, however you pronounce it. It allows for it to be not just celebrating the human body, but at the same time celebrating just art as human bodies are a work of art. So let's keep going. Another image that, again, just shows some exaggeration, but at the same time shows the beauty of curves and just distorted in a weird, interesting way. This one here, another one that is really fascinating as there's different textures to it, and obviously the additional eye that's there, just really cool, you know? All right, let's keep going, let's keep going. Over here, we have Mr. Richard Lipscomb. Now, the Lipscombs, for those who may not be aware, are a family that actually dates back many, many years. In this province, a lot of people thought that, or think that Black people originally arrived here in the province in the 70s, but there's a long history that actually dates back to the early 1900s, and the Lipscombs are one of the families of that. I'm actually good friends with Jesse Lipscomb and Curtis Lipscomb, the sons of Richard Lipscomb, who are also artists as well too. Curtis is a producer that I've worked with, and Jesse is a actor in addition to being a visual artist as well too, who I've had the opportunity to work with, and he's also does track, and I've done track and field with him. So as we look at some of these paintings here, this one I think is cool still because the prairies is something that we often don't think of as being Black, right? But there's a long history, Amber Valley, so many stories that speak towards us as Black people being on the prairies, going all the way back to the days of John Ware. So we've been here for quite some time. So it's really cool that he was able to illustrate that, because you wouldn't expect to see that from a Black artist, but we are very much prairie folk as anybody else, you know? This one here, it's a painting, singer, keyboardist. Pretty simple, as is, not much to break down there. Black people, we don't like to get our hair wet. So obviously the umbrella shows that this beautiful sister here is trying to stay dry. She doesn't like the rainy days, you know? Shouts out to Arlo Maverick. Here in this picture here, I think this is really cool still because it kind of, from my perspective, it captures the adventure and just some of the creativity, or even just the playfulness of kids. Here she is hopping on a chair and going on to the sink just so she could see herself, and maybe she wants to fly away. It's really cool still, really like that one. This one here, I think it's really cool still because of the fact that you have the father or possibly a grandfather, right? And then you have the son or possibly a grandson. And the reason why I think this is so cool is because it celebrates Black fathers, at least from our perspective. And that's something that we don't often get a chance to see. We hear a lot of negative things being said about Black fathers, but here is something that shows legacy, shows care, shows love, shows just the importance of Black fathers and the importance of that relationship with, whether it's a grandfather, whether it's a father, or maybe it's an uncle, who knows, but that community, so important, so important. So let's keep going, let's keep going. And we get to this masterful piece here. Now, the gentleman who did this goes by the name of Curly. Some of you guys may know this, some of you guys may not know this, right? But not only is he a visual artist, he's also a b-boy. So b-boys, for those who may not be familiar with that, they are what we call break boys. So they're the ones who do the popping and locking. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm not in the best of shape, but they're the ones who do the windmills, popping and locking, all that stuff there. And Trevor, in addition to being a visual artist, is very much part of Edmonton's hip hop community. So this piece here, deep in the night, a butterfly, a passerby, comes sacred geometry with psychedelic threads woven through time, and unapologetic markings start dripping, floating. A photocopy of struggling, dusted minds along this path. Letters bend for those who've unlocked ancient code. So we rest in peace among the rust and nights that have come and gone. Yo, language has no rule but to be understood. The butterfly told. So we wrote it on the wall for all to see. In the shadows, souls flutter. In the darkness, we can't even see the colors we speak. Powerful words, powerful words. For those who may not also be aware, Trevor is also part of an organization called Rust Magic. Now, if you've seen the music video for Black Every Day, you'll notice that there is a mural that's behind myself and Stephanie French, who sings on the chorus. That was a piece that was commissioned by Rust Magic. So a lot of the beautiful art you see within the city of Edmonton is courtesy of Rust Magic. But let's keep going here. Let's keep going here. Can we do a little dance? Do a little dance. Do a little dance. Come around, come around, come around, come around. Hope you guys are keeping up with me. One thing that's very important, your shoe game. If your shoe game does not come correct, don't show up. Ask the ladies that showed up today. They know what's up. They know what's up. Not much to say about these shoes here, but they look dope. They're popping, they're fly. Let's go around to the next part over here. So there's a lot to be taken from this here. You have, I think that was, he's from Fat Albert. Can't remember his name, right? You have this thing here. I have no idea what it is. A lot of stuff going on in one particular thing, but the cool thing about it is that it represents so much hip hop within this. We have some graffiti stuff that's here. And for those who are familiar with Trevor's stuff, you know that he is a graph artist that, that likes to bomb, puts up murals and things of that nature. So let's keep going, let's keep going. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just my take on what I'm seeing, because this is my interpretation. As we come in here, we have Keon. Now, Keon is an artist who I've worked with before. He's done a piece on me, but here we have, so we have Warhol and Basquiat. So it's really interesting in the sense that you have two artists that are so iconic. Basquiat, for those who may be familiar with Jay-Z's recent hairstylings, are modeled after Basquiat. And what's fascinating about Basquiat is that when you look at the early inception of when hip hop is actually making its presence to the world, Basquiat is there creating art that is very representative of what is actually going on. And obviously Warhol, we all know Warhol, you know? But let's keep going, let's keep going. Okay, so this one here, Mr. Lewis, rest in peace. And what I want to bring attention to at the end, I want to center in on this piece right here. Now, one of the things that often happens within the world of art is that we celebrate pop culture icons. We celebrate people who have done things in great places outside of our localities. This brother right here goes by the name of Robert Tyndale, also known as Bobby T. And he is someone who has done a lot of amazing work within the city here. So for Keon to do a painting that represents him allows it to be localized. It allows for him to become someone that a young kid looking up one day will look at him and possibly have the same reverence as the Basquiat or the John Lewis or whoever it may be, you know? So let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going. All right, so Shoko is an artist that I am new to, not 100% familiar with this stuff, but we're gonna explore it. Let's take a look. I like this one. And the reason why I like this one is that it's called Spirit. The whole fact that you see a smiling and joyous person is beautiful, because a lot of times within popular media, we don't get a chance to see smiling Black people, you know? So to see this, the whole fact that there's joy, it's not about pain. The unfortunate thing is with our story is that it's often attached to pain. And it's not to say that we don't go through pain, it's not to say that we don't actually have those feelings or have those moments, but there's also a positive side to us as well too. So let's keep going, let's keep going. And unfortunately we come to what could be seen as tragedy. Now, this one here, peace, hope. This drawing shows a dove that flies away from deconstruction, a bombed bus in Israel, and lands where there's peace by an innocent child drumming to his own beat. So you have all this stuff, all this destruction, but all of a sudden there's the innocence of the child and the bird flies to it, right? And I think that is so important in the time that we're in right now with everything that's going on with COVID and all these things where we're not sure where the world is headed, knowing that the innocence of children and the innocence of our future will always find a way to create a new path. And as someone who creates music, I understand that sometimes we dance to the beat of our own drum, and sometimes the beat of the drum of children is what we should be dancing to, as opposed to dancing to the beat of adults. But let's keep going here. Some more stuff from Shoko. This one here. Caesar, right? Over here, we have some more pieces. This one here is Untitled 05. It's very lifelike, and I'm staring at it because it looks like it might actually just open up its eyes and say, "Hi, how you doing?" You know? I'm waiting for it to do it, but it's not that it hasn't done it yet. So I think there's something to be said about the level of intensity and the level of, and the amount of time that it takes to create something like this, right? And I think a lot of times when we see art, if we don't get it, we just don't get it. But there's something within this that shows a level of discipline and a level of concentration to get this, to get a stone, to get a piece of clay, to get to the point of it being so lifelike, to the point that I'm still waiting for it to say hi to me. That's not easy. That's not easy. Let's hop over here. Over here, this one here is still an untitled one. And sometimes I wish I could actually understand the thought process that goes behind a lot of the art, I shouldn't say paintings, the art that people create, in the sense that there's a story that's here. But what the story is, I don't know. But let's go over here. And again, I'm a person who indulges in art from a music perspective, but I can still appreciate the artistic expression of other people. Over here, we have Shaheem Small, a visual artist that I'm very familiar with, as he's been part of things like 5 Artists, 1 Love. He's also been part of and other pop-up art installations that have happened throughout the city here. For those who may not be within the greater Edmonton area, within the last, well, prior to COVID, within the last 4 or 5 years or so, the hip hop world and the art world have been merging to create pop-up shows at galleries that happen just in a random place. And the cool thing about it is that you have a DJ, you have people coming out to have drinks and dress up and look nice, but on the wall, you'll see art. And the unfortunate thing is that sometimes we think of art as being something that has to be in a place like the AGA. But art can be wherever we want it to be. So let's take a look at some of the pieces that he has here. This one here, Death and Rebirth, to a chorus of Biggie Smalls, because you were somebody before anybody killed you. Now, if you're familiar with Biggie Smalls, he has a song that goes, "You're nobody till somebody kills you." Now look at what Shaheem did. He reversed it. You were somebody before anybody killed you. Now, in the world that we're in, there's a lot of violence that takes place within all communities, not just the Black community, all communities. But the people who are being killed are somebody to somebody. And so I think this painting represents that, in the sense of this person who has lost their life for whatever reason it may be. There was somebody to somebody else. And I think that is just something that shows us that we have to appreciate life, and also take that time to appreciate those who are close to us, people who we care about, you know? Nipsey Hussle. Now, this is probably my favorite piece of Shaheem's, because of the fact that A, I'm a huge Nipsey Hussle fan because of what he stood for and what he was trying to do for his community. And B, it's so powerful in the way he uses the blues. Now, you have the Bloods, you have the Crips, so on and so forth. But if I'm looking at this just from an artistic perspective, the braids in his hair have different shades of blue, the blue that surrounds him, the blue that's in his eye, the blue that's in his beard. It just creates this really, really powerful piece that represents just Nipsey in such a beautiful way, you know? Lily, I'm not sure who Lily is. I'll give you time to catch up with me, all right? Now, I'm not sure who Lily is, but it's a really powerful piece, and you get locked within her eyes because she's staring at you with such intensity, right? Now, what's around her? I'm not sure, but I guess Lily's right in front here. But a great piece, great piece. This one here, Guardian. Now, these two pieces here, one I've read, is that one is supposed to represent femininity in the sense of beauty, the softness, the caring, the nurturing, so on and so forth. And then this one here is supposed to represent masculinity in the sense of the protector, the provider, the overseer, making sure everything is good. And I think that yin and that yang works so perfectly in the sense of just capturing what family is about. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hello. Are you enjoying the tour? Are you enjoying the tour? No? That means I'm doing a horrible job. Okay. You got more people here. It's great. It's great. Okay. So right now we have artwork by Judy Robinson. Now, as a child, grew up on the West End, and there was this African art store in West Edmonton Mall. And it was owned by this woman by the name of Judy Robinson, but I didn't know her at the time. And we used to go into there and be like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff here, because at that point in time, you had movies like Malcolm X and all this, you have Public Enemy, and there was a huge movement for Pan-Africanism in the 90s. Now, Judy owned the store with her husband. And I bring that up because a lot of her art represents so much of our struggle and our experience as Black people. And so much of the work that she does as well too represents that as well. And so to these paintings here, and I can't really speak towards what this is, but she says, playing with paint, play is a rejuvenating spiritual experience that draws upon the intentional abyss of our minds. This work is simply a display of the pleasure inherent in playing with paints. So it's not really deep about this one here. She was playing with paint, all right? But let's keep going, let's keep going. This one here is interesting because it was actually featured in the Black Everyday video, which Judy was in as well too. And I think it's fascinating because of the fact that as Black people, we have a very interesting relationship when it comes to Christianity. Some of us are devout Christians that go to church every Sunday, read our Bible, so on and so forth, but there's still things within religion that we often sometimes question and feel that there are contradictions or things that are problematic. So you have the good and you have the bad. But to have that there, I think is really powerful still. Let's keep going. This one here, the sheer scale of this work is meant to evoke the overpowering nature and ability of our gods. Inspired by the myth, making masquerades of Mali's Bambara people, this work attempts to capture the essence of an epic myth. Myths embody the dreams and aspirations of a people by personifying such absolutely grandiose ambitions into figures of utterly magnificent character, gods. Gives you a lot to think about, gives you a lot to think about. Now this one here, when I came into the gallery earlier, something struck me about it. Now, I'm not gonna read what it's about because art is very much about interpretation, right? And so when I see this shark that's just going and eating all these numbers, so you have redemption colors that are within there, and part of me took from that bodies that possibly were in the ocean as the transatlantic slave trade was taking place. I could be right, I could be wrong. Art is left up to interpretation. That's what I interpreted. So Judy, don't hate me for it, all right? Let's keep going. Now, the stuff we have in here is courtesy of an artist by the name of Renice. Now, Renice is a Jamaican woman, and she has a background that also embodies Indian heritage. For those who may not be aware, within Jamaica, there were workers that were brought there from India. So a lot of us as Jamaicans, and I'm of Jamaican descent, have East Indian blood within us. Now, the cool thing with Renice is that she tries to allow for her art to represent both sides of that, which is really, really cool, you know? So a lot of the fabrics that are used represent the heritage of her Indian background, but then she also juxtaposes that with the Caribbean, Jamaican, Black ancestry as well too. So I'm kind of just jumping all over the place because they're kind of all over here. Nothing in particular that I'm looking at, but a lot of this stuff is really cool still. This one here, looking like it could be the Predator. This is really cool still. If you can get a real close up on the details on this one here. So it's as if it's really fascinating because a lot of times you have to wonder about the artistic choices that artists make. And it's not good, it's not bad. It's just fascinating because if you can come around over here. And as we look inside here, you see the fabric actually put within the wood. And it's done in a way that is brilliant. And what I like about this is that as artists, we have these crazy ideas. And a lot of times, if I were to describe this to somebody before I did it, they'd be like, what are you talking about? And as artists, a lot of times we have to just trust our gut and like ignore everyone who keeps calling us crazy, because crazy in words becomes art in real life. Remember that, all right? Let's keep going, let's keep going. This one here is courtesy of Braxton Santiago Garneau. Now, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of music history. In the late 90s, early 2000s, there's a band in the city of Edmonton called the Hyphonics. The lead singer of the Hyphonics was a gentleman by the name of Curtis Santiago. His brother had a son who's an artist. And Curtis, in addition to being a singer and an amazing musical artist, is also a visual artist as well too. So it shows you that sometimes the ones who are looking for younger, looking up to you, might be inspired by the things you're doing. So as artists, it's important for us to always be modeling the behaviors of hard work, modeling the behaviors of being creative and being explorative, because this is what happens when you're surrounded by people who are creative. So I don't know what the art represents. But it's really good though. It's really good though. It's really good though. Again, I'm not a visual artist, kid, but this is on a different level, you know? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And again, we're gonna have some Q&A at the end. We're gonna come back to that. Okay, so this piece here, when I first came to the gallery, really struck me. Now, the reason why it struck me is because I was trying to get a sense of what was happening in the picture. So we have a chair, we have a shoe, we have paint, brushes, We have this painting of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. Then we also have this door that's open. So I didn't know what to make of it. And the reason why I didn't know what to make of it was this a mirror? Was this the NFL about to come into the door and be like, hey, get up? Was this, what was it? So as I look at this, I really wanted to talk to the artists and get their perspective in regards to why is the chair here? Why is there just this one shoe here? Because all these things make sense. And sometimes as visual artists or artists, period, the art we're creating isn't necessarily created by us. It's created by a muse. There's someone who's communicating something that has a greater purpose than what we think we're doing. And maybe that's what was happening when this was created. I don't know. I'd love to know. This one over here, Searching Freedom. Oh, sorry, that's Searching Freedom. And this one here is Farmer. So this one is Fetsum, who is East African. And so this one here is kind of interesting still because it is Playfield is in North America somewhere where somebody is farming. But the reason why I found that to be fascinating is that the gentleman is actually from East Africa. So the landscape is very different than what I would expect. But at the same time, though, as I said, we often don't put ourselves into these environments as Black people because we see ourselves as being other. We are Canadians, we are Americans, we are people within this diaspora. So the art here is something that represents some sort of experience. It's something he's trying to communicate, you know? So let's move over here. Lisa Mays. Now, before we go on to Lisa Mays, I just want to do a quick check-in with the audience that's here right now. Are you guys good? Okay. I'm looking like there's like 100 people here, but there's just a few people here. But I got to check in with them to make sure they're good. So this one here, next artist is Lisa Mays. Again, the Mays family is a family that is very much like the Lipscombs family, where there's a heritage and a generation that goes way, way back, right? So Amber Valley, one of the communities for a lot of the earliest settlers, right? And so with this painting here, I feel like it represents the early 1900s, a time where, believe it or not, you would have cities that had only Black people in it in Alberta. And things like this are important because when you create a painting like this and people see it, they start asking questions in the sense of, why are there Black people on the prairies? And it's no different than white people on the prairies during this time period. And so when those questions start to get raised, then we start looking at education. Why is that not being taught within schools? So a piece like this, while it's not intentionally political or intentionally social, it does the job of doing that. On here. This one here, Grandmother. Yeah, so this work is a dedication to Lisa Mays' lineage of grandmothers. Grandmother is a contemplation on colonialism and the rebuilding of identity. So again, the layout of the work is meant to reference the Spanish casta system. This is a system created to identify the mixing of different so-called races and was utilized in the Spanish colonies to indicate castas' social status, level of taxation, and legal rights. So again, when it comes to art, this is what I found to be so fascinating, is that if I were to just look at this, there's certain things I can take from it, but then there's also other things that I may miss. And that's where context is so important when it comes to art. Because after reading that, now I'm looking at this from a totally different perspective. And someone else may come in and see something that I didn't see right away. And I guess the cool thing with that is that we all have our interpretations, but there's a message that the artist is trying to communicate. And I'm so glad that I read that because it's vital and very important. Let's keep things rolling here still. More work from Lisa Mays. And again, just a lot of cool things that this represent. Yeah. Ancestral Mardi Gras. Okay, I'm gonna keep going, but something very powerful with that still. Okay, I actually want to stop on this here because I feel like a lot of her pieces are so like political and so important. Okay, so prior to being enslaved, Africans existed in large-scale and advanced civilizations. A lot of people aren't aware of this. Africans weren't just waiting around for Europeans to come and bring them to North America. We were building civilizations. Read your history. European colonization and the Atlantic slave trade erased their identities and cultures. Mardi Gras, Black Indians, is an example of a newly emerged identity and culture demonstrated by the interchange between Native Americans and African Americans that runs parallel to the enslaved in the Americas. Carnival, we all jump up, but there's a history behind the carnival that speaks to the journey of Black people coming over to the new Americas. So for those who may not be aware, it was a lot of the costumes that you see in Carnival were actually used to mock the slave masters. So there's a whole history that's there. Not going to get into it, but at the same time, though, while we have lost sense of what it is about, there's a cultural and a historical meaning that was a form of rebellion, which is always so interesting that when you look at African culture, sometimes the protest isn't as in your face as you think it is. Even when you consider the whole fact that a lot of the traditional songs that were sung, the hymns, were actually codes in order to communicate to other enslaved Africans. So much texture, so much history that's there that needs to be taught within schools, and hopefully this exhibit helps in contributing to that. Let's keep going, let's keep going. Now, what's fascinating about Holly is that I knew Holly for a number of years and never knew she was a visual artist, which is kind of strange still, because visual artists don't really let you know they're visual artists. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But courtesy of Five Artists One Love, I was able to find out that someone who I knew was a visual artist. And I bring that up because Five Artists One Love has been important and imperative in allowing for us to realize that there are Black artists out there. When Darren Jordan started this 15 years ago, he knew that as a visual artist and as an artist period, there wasn't opportunities for Black people who created art. So he created this thing, and what it's done is that it's now allowed for Black artists to increase their profile, have opportunities to be in galleries like this, where they could then use that as leverage to get into another opportunity. So I mentioned that story because of the fact that if there was opportunities like Five Artists One Love, prior to Five Artists One Love, I possibly would have known that she was a visual artist. But it's through creating opportunities like this that we are encouraging and empowering people to actually step out with their artistry and be like, hey, I'm a visual artist. I now have a gallery I can put my stuff into. So shouts out to the whole Five Artists One Love for allowing me to know that my friend was actually a visual artist. Weird, huh? Okay, so with this stuff here, I'm not even gonna pretend like I know what it's saying, what it's doing. It looks cool, it's art, that's what's important. Let's come over here. Now, if you've seen the promo for this tour, you know that I stood in front of this piece right here. Now, the gentleman who did it, another fellow Jamaican, AJ Louden, who has done a bunch of murals throughout the city here. AJ is probably one of our most recognized visual artists here in the city. And the cool thing with AJ is that not only is he a real cool guy, just down to earth and so chill, his work always has these layers to it. Now, I don't just mean layers in the sense of what's happening here, but layers in the sense of the context that's there, right? So let's look at some of the people that he has on here in this constellation of stars, I guess you could say, right? So we have the brother from Reading Rainbow, who was also on Star Trek. I can't remember. But then we also have, and so he labels him as problem solver, right? Then we have Malcolm and Martin as figureheads, right? Then we have John Ware as a pioneer, right? We have Nipsey Hussle as a visionary. We have, I'm not sure who this is, but as a griot. And what I like about this is that you have even T'Challa as the warrior. You have all these people who are, I feel like that might be Nat Turner. I'll have to double check. Let me double check here, guys. All right, so we have Pam Grier. Where's Pam? Okay, there's a Vanguard. Okay, all right. We got Nipsey, we got Amanda Gorman, we got C. Dolores Tucker up there. We got John Ware. And for those who don't know, John Ware is a cowboy. John Ware, when he passed away, was such a celebrity that, and this was a Black man during a time period where Black people were not even being treated as equals, but he had been so good at what he did that even those who did not like Black people had to recognize his works within the province of Alberta. So definitely someone who you should know about if you don't know about him yet, okay? And there's actually a tie to Curtis Lipscomb, or Jesse Lipscomb, sorry, because he actually, he was in a movie. I'm not sure if he played him, but he was in a movie. My apologies, my facts aren't correct. But, yeah, all right, so, sorry guys, I'm kind of all over the place right now, but this one here, great work, courtesy of AJ Louden. Let's keep going here still. Some more stuff from Holly, again. Not really sure what to make of the art still. It's interesting, fascinating, and I wish that I was a more articulate gentleman when it comes to art like this. But let's keep going. So we're at the last artist for this 15-year anniversary for Five Artists One Love. Now, Emily is someone who I've actually had the opportunity to work with. I've worked with her mother, with the Jamaican Association of Northern Alberta, but Emily has also taken photos of me. And so, yeah, family. And these ones here, there's some photos she's taken of a beautiful Black sister there. Some more stuff over here. Great use of light as far as just capturing it so that you only see these parts that are right here. So you see her back, the arm, a bit of the head, a bit of the legs right there. And this one here, yeah, again, just great use of art in the sense of light, in the sense of like capturing what needed to be captured there. This one's kind of cool still, in the sense that, I don't know if that's painted on or if that's what it is, but it's just really cool art, you know, and a really great photo. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our thing. Oh shoot, we gotta run back in here. Come on, come on, come on. All right, so my apologies. This man is a legend. He is an icon. Many years ago, in the city of Edmonton, there was a motorcycle that was made out of wire wheel. that Shumba had created. And he went all throughout the city with this thing on display. He became essentially iconic because of this, because it was so crazy. It was life size, okay? So Shumba is an artist, as you can see, visual artist. And a lot of this stuff is just like really cool stuff that this one here, Victory Lap, right? So I'm assuming this represents someone who just finished running a race. Victory Lap like Nipsey Hussle, right? Then we have the next one here, Protected. So what I take from this is that you have whatever the ball in the middle is intended to represent is something that is protected because it is of great importance, right? Hence the name Protected. This one here, Prayer. Trying to make out where the prayer would be, but I don't know, but it's still interesting. This one over here, this one's Eyewitness. This is some really cool stuff. It's like one of those rocks you find up in Jasper, and then you take it home with you, and then you make it into something really cool. I've tried it before, but it's never turned out this nice. So that concludes everything. Let's actually hop back over to the Black Everyday Wall, and if anybody has any questions, then we'll take them. Let's follow me, follow me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Arlo. It's Michael speaking. I am a disembodied voice. I'm just checking the Q&A now to see if we have any questions. And so let's just pull it up. And if there's any questions from the audience, please let me know. Does anyone have a question for Arlo? Yes. Yes? Okay, great. So what's your question?
My question is, through this exhibit, we saw, through your perspective, a lot of the embedded meaning in these pieces that are connected to a particular cultural history and experience. But art evolves and there is exchange. What is your perspective on retaining meaning while allowing cultural exchange and evolution, but without losing? That's one question, and I have a follow-up.
Okay. All right. I think that we have to be extremely careful when it comes to retaining art, because in more specifically North America, and let's say Canada and the United States, corporations tend to drive culture. So when you have a system that expects exponential growth through products or services, sometimes culture could be thrown to the side. And then you pick and choose what is going to be viable to a consumer, as opposed to what is important to the culture and the preservation of that culture. So I think that we have to be very careful in doing so, because you do want to allow for advancements. You do want to allow for other perspectives to come in and also help push the culture further, but you never want to forget the roots of it, and you never want to take something without acknowledging where it came from. You know, we opened up today with the land acknowledgement, in the sense that my parents are from Jamaica. Being here, this is not the origins of my family, but I have to acknowledge and respect the whole fact that there were people who came before me who still are just as important to this culture. And if I want to contribute something, that's cool, but I never want to contribute something and say their perspective doesn't matter, their input doesn't matter. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do have a follow-up if I can. So the other part of that is that there is interest from people everywhere, even me, for example, in, of course, cultural expressions that are connected to African people and Africans. So my question is, what is your perspective of people not from the culture connecting to something that has an origin connected to struggle.
Mm.
So even though someone may admire and want to, you know, engage with it, the history of the struggle is not within your ancestry. It's not part of the memory of your body, or many, many things that are, you know, connected to that. So how do you protect that while still allow for people to engage without taking something which they will never understand the true meaning, perhaps? Perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's a real tough question to answer. I think that what's fascinating as humans is that we're all connected to a struggle in one way or another, right? And you can never say, wow, Cecilia, you got me on this one here. You got me on this one here. I think it's a matter of looking at things from a respectful approach, right? The unfortunate thing is that as Black people, we have been commodified and not compensated for the commodification of our art, right? In the song Black Every Day, the second verse, I say, the least appreciated, the most imitated, but least appreciated, the most appropriated, but rarely compensated, right? Black is beautiful, how is it not fact when Karen and Becky won a Black girl, right? And I say that in the sense that the next line says they want to walk like our queens, be strong as our queens, but don't want the struggle to develop those genes, right? So in a lot of ways, people look at Black culture and be like, I like that, that's cool. I want to take that, but I don't want to know about the struggle that goes along with that. It's like doing all the things that are cool, that are Black, until the police show up and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm just a white dude, you know? The Black guys are still gonna be Black, right? And which comes back to the conversation of Black every day, in the sense that the struggles that we have as Black people are ones that we can't turn off, we can't turn on. They're just part of who we are. That's not good, that's not bad, that's just how life is, right? And I think that when we get to a place where you have people who are not fair weather activists, who are just like, well, it's cool for me to support Black movements today, so I'm gonna support it. But when it's not cool, I'm gonna step back. When I know that my white counterparts, my Latino counterparts, my Filipino counterparts are always going to be there with me in this, then when I see them wanting to partake in the culture, I don't see it as appropriation. I don't see it as they're using it when it's convenient. I see it as, this is my brother who, or my sister who is always there. And I think that that's where often people get upset, because Kim Kardashian will have braids. If she does it, it's seen as being beautiful. A Black woman does it, it's seen as ghetto. So when we have a world in which our expressions that are rooted within our struggle are appreciated when they're adorned by us or when they're contributed by us, then now there isn't that situation of people just wanting to benefit off of us when it's convenient for them. If that makes sense. Hopefully I've answered your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was such a good question. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask? Arlo, anyone in the digital sphere? Maybe we'll just take a moment to encourage people to come to the AGA to check out this exhibition. It's on for a week and a little bit, so please come to the AGA and check it out. It's really wonderful in person, and you get to truly appreciate it for all its value when you're seeing it up close. Well, I guess if there's no other questions, we'll just say big thank you, Arlo. This has been truly fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to say? Any last words?
I think the biggest thing is that a huge thank you to Darren Jordan for curating this for 15 years and the whole team that's behind it as well too. As I mentioned earlier, there weren't places where Black artists were able to have this stuff seen and recognized and appreciated, because there are cultural nuances that people may not necessarily get, but with Five Artists, One Love, Darren has allowed for Black visual artists, Black artists period, to level up, but he's also allowed for them to take their stuff to places that it may have never gone to before, and also receive the education that's needed for them to actually understand how to navigate these spaces. Because a conversation that we often have is that, why are we not seeing Black artists in this space or that space or that space? And sometimes it comes from them not having the knowledge of how to access these spaces. So when you have something like Five Artists, One Love, that is not just about the display of art, but the education that goes behind the business of art, then now you have more opportunities for us to be seen. And hopefully this is something that continues on, and maybe the 30th anniversary will be even bigger, to the point where it's a national thing. So again, thank you to Darren Jordan for having the idea and going through the challenges that obviously must come along with doing something like this for 15 years, you know? And thank you to the AGA for hosting this. Thank you to those who came out, you know, really appreciate it. And yeah, I guess that's
Well, thanks again, and good night to everyone watching in cyberspace. Thanks again, Arlo. Bye for now.
Peace. Yes.